Termination effective immediately. My wedding present to you. The text message glowed on my phone screen like a neon sign in the darkness. I stared at it, my wedding dress rustling as I shifted in the bridal suite chair. My name is Camille Rhodes. I'm 33 years old, and I had just become the victim of the most vindictive act I'd ever experienced. The message was from Lucas Bennett, the spoiled 28-year-old son of Greylinks Industries CEO. As I read those cruel words again, my heart pounded not with fear, but with a cold, calculating fury that surprised even me. This wasn't just about losing my job as senior business development manager. This was about Lucas trying to destroy what should have been the happiest day of my life. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Lucas. Hope you saved enough for the honeymoon. You'll need it for unemployment. I could practically hear his smug laughter through the screen. He thought he was so clever, timing this announcement for maximum humiliation. Everything okay, sweetheart? My soon-to-be husband, David Walsh, peeked around the corner of the bridal suite. At 35, David was everything Lucas wasn't. Mature, kind, and genuinely successful in his own right as a financial consultant. When I showed him the messages, expecting shock or outrage, he simply chuckled. Poor Lucas, David said, shaking his head with amusement. He has no idea what he's just done. I looked at my husband with curiosity. What do you mean? David's smile was enigmatic. Let's just say some people are about to learn the difference between inherited power and earned intelligence. The wedding coordinator knocked softly on the door. Miss Rhodes, it's time. As I stood and adjusted my dress, I felt something shift inside me. The devastating blow Lucas thought he'd delivered had instead awakened something fierce and determined. I had spent 5 years at Greylinks Industries, building relationships, securing major contracts, and establishing myself as one of their most valuable assets. Lucas might have his father's name on the building, but I had something far more powerful, the trust and respect of our biggest clients. My phone buzzed one more time. Lucas again. Clean out your desk Monday. Security will escort you out. I smiled as I slipped the phone into my purse. Lucas had made one critical miscalculation. He assumed that firing me would end my influence at Greylinks Industries. What he didn't realize was that my departure would trigger a chain reaction that would bring his carefully constructed world crashing down around him. By the time this wedding reception ended, Lucas Bennett would understand the true meaning of consequences. Walking down the aisle toward David, I reflected on how I'd ended up in Lucas's crosshairs. It started 6 months ago when his father, Robert Bennett, announced that Lucas would be taking on more responsibilities at Greylinks Industries. The company specialized in manufacturing industrial automation equipment, and I had been their star performer for years, bringing in over $60 million in contracts during my tenure. Lucas had always resented me. While I worked my way up from an entry-level position through sheer determination and results, he waltzed into a senior management role straight out of business school. His jealousy became toxic when I landed the North Peak engineering account last month, a deal worth $40 million that Lucas had been trying to close for 2 years. She's making me look incompetent, I'd overheard him complaining to his father. Robert's response had been diplomatic, but firm. Results speak louder than complaints, son. That conversation apparently planted the seed for today's vindictive attack. Lucas must have been planning this moment for weeks, timing my termination to coincide with my wedding day. He probably imagined me collapsing in tears, my special day ruined by his cruel power play. My relationship with the Bennett family had been complex from the beginning. Robert genuinely respected my work and often praised my ability to understand clients' needs in ways that his own son couldn't. Camille has an intuitive grasp of what makes these deals work, he told the board of directors during my last performance review. But Lucas saw my success as a threat to his eventual inheritance of the company. Every major contract I secured made his own mediocre performance look worse by comparison. When I received the prestigious Industry Excellence Award 3 months ago, Lucas's resentment reached a boiling point. He started undermining my projects, scheduling conflicting meetings during my client presentations, and spreading rumors about my aggressive negotiation tactics. The irony was that my wedding to David actually strengthened my professional network. David's consulting firm worked with many Fortune 500 companies, and our combined connections made us a formidable team. Lucas probably saw our marriage as another threat to his position. As I reached the altar and took David's hands, I thought about the phone calls I'd made earlier this week. Casual conversations with key clients, just checking in, building relationships. What Lucas didn't know was that these weren't random social calls. They were strategic moves in a chess game he didn't even realize he was playing. Margaret Wu from North Peak Engineering had mentioned during our last lunch meeting that she was concerned about management changes at Greylinks Industries. "I hope they're not planning to shake up the team," she'd said. "Our relationship with you is the main reason we chose Greylinks over the competition." Those words would prove more prophetic than either of us realized. Lucas had just made the biggest mistake of his privileged life, and he didn't even know it yet. The ceremony was beautiful, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Lucas was somewhere celebrating his perceived victory. He probably imagined me discovering his message in the middle of my vows, breaking down in front of our 150 guests. Instead, I stood there exchanging promises with David, my mind already working through the implications of what Lucas had done. During the cocktail hour, I excused myself to the ladies' room and pulled out my phone. No missed calls from Robert Bennett, which meant Lucas hadn't informed his father about the termination yet. This was clearly Lucas acting on his own authority, probably planning to present it to Robert as a fait accompli on Monday morning. I scrolled through my contacts and found Margaret Wu's number. As the decision-maker for the $40 million North Peak Engineering contract, Margaret had become more than just a client over the past 6 months. We'd developed a genuine professional friendship built on mutual respect and trust. "Margaret, it's Camille. I'm sorry to bother you on a Saturday, but I wanted to give you a heads up about some changes at Greylinks Industries." "What kind of changes?" Margaret's voice carried immediate concern. "I've just been terminated, effective immediately. I wanted you to hear it from me directly rather than through official channels on Monday." The silence that followed was telling. When Margaret finally spoke, her voice was cold with anger. "They fired you? The person who single-handedly saved our partnership? Who understood our technical requirements better than their own engineering team?" "I'm afraid so. Lucas Bennett made the decision." That arrogant little... Margaret caught herself. "Camille, I need to ask you something directly. In your professional opinion, can Greylinks Industries deliver on our contract requirements without you?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "Margaret, you know I can't make recommendations about your business decisions, but I will say this. The technical specifications we developed together were based on my deep understanding of both your needs and Greylinks' capabilities. That knowledge transfer would be challenging for someone else to replicate quickly." Another long pause. "I see. Thank you for the courtesy call, Camille. Enjoy your wedding day. We'll be in touch very soon." As I hung up, I felt a grim satisfaction. Margaret Wu wasn't just any client. She was the kind of detail-oriented executive who would immediately question any disruption to a project this size. The North Peak contract had penalty clauses for delays or substandard delivery that could cripple Greylinks financially. I returned to the reception with a smile, accepting congratulations from guests while my phone remained strategically silenced in my purse. Lucas thought he was delivering a knockout punch, but he'd actually just handed me the perfect weapon to destroy his credibility. By Monday morning, his wedding present to me would become the worst decision of his professional life. The wedding reception was in full swing when my phone started buzzing incessantly. I glanced at the screen during David's speech and saw 17 missed calls from various numbers. My pulse quickened, not with anxiety, but with anticipation. The wheels I'd set in motion were already turning faster than I'd expected. Ladies and gentlemen, David was saying, raising his champagne glass, I married the most brilliant woman I know today. Camille has this incredible ability to see 3 moves ahead in any situation. It's what makes her so successful in business, and it's what made me fall in love with her. If only he knew how prophetic those words were. As the applause died down, I excused myself again, this time heading to the venue's business center. 23 missed calls now, and counting. The first voicemail was from Margaret Wu, timestamped just 40 minutes after our earlier conversation. Camille, I've spoken with our board of directors. We're invoking the key personnel clause in our contract with Greylinks Industries. If you're no longer on the project, we consider the agreement void. I'll be calling Robert Bennett personally on Monday to discuss our options. The next message was from James Harrison at Kristen Global, another major client. Camille, Margaret Wu just called me about some shakeup at Greylinks. She mentioned you've been let go? We need to talk immediately. Our contract has similar personnel requirements. My hands trembled as I listened to message after message. Word was spreading through the industry network faster than wildfire. These weren't just casual business relationships. They were professional partnerships built on years of trust and successful collaboration. Thomas Rodriguez from Lumirin Publishing had left 2 messages. Camille, this is urgent. We're 3 weeks away from implementation on our automation system. If Greylinks thinks they can just swap out project managers at this stage, they're mistaken. Call me back immediately. I sat down heavily in one of the business center chairs, staring at my phone as the call count reached 31. Lucas had grossly underestimated the interconnected nature of our client relationships. In the industrial automation business, personal trust was everything. Clients didn't just hire companies, they hired people. My phone rang again. This time it was Victoria Stone from Foxton Interactive, our newest client. I answered on the second ring. Camille, thank God you picked up. I just got a very disturbing call from Margaret Wu. Please tell me this termination rumor isn't true. I'm afraid it is, Victoria. Lucas Bennett made the decision earlier today. That imbecile, Victoria said flatly. Camille, I'm going to be direct with you. The only reason we chose Greylinks over Bravantine Logistics was because of your track record. If you're not there to oversee our project, we're pulling out. I've already drafted the cancellation letter. Victoria, I appreciate your confidence in me, but you should make whatever decision is best for Foxton Interactive. I am, and what's best is working with professionals who honor their commitments. If Greylinks wants to play games with personnel during active projects, they can explain to their shareholders why they lost a $12 million contract. After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence. Victoria's contract was barely 2 weeks old. Lucas would have no idea that losing it would trigger a liquidated damages clause worth an additional $3 million. Combined with the North Peak Engineering contract, Greylinks Industries was looking at potential losses exceeding $55 million. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Everything okay? You've been gone a while. I typed back. Just handling some urgent calls. Be right there. As I walked back toward the reception, I caught a glimpse of myself in the hallway mirror. My wedding dress was still pristine, my makeup perfect, but my eyes held a fierce determination that hadn't been there this morning. Lucas Bennett had wanted to ruin my wedding day, but instead, he'd given me the perfect opportunity to demonstrate exactly why firing me was the biggest mistake of his career. I returned to the reception, just as the band was starting our first dance. David took my hand, and as we swayed to the music, he whispered, "The calls?" "Clients," I murmured back. "They're not happy about the termination news." "How not happy?" $50+ million in contracts at risk. David's steps never faltered, but I felt him tense slightly. "That's significant. Lucas has no idea what he's just triggered." I smiled as we spun slowly. He thought he was firing one employee. He actually just destabilized his father's entire company. During the song, I noticed my phone lighting up repeatedly on our sweetheart table. By the time we finished dancing, I had 47 missed calls and dozens of text messages. The industry network was in full crisis mode. I decided to answer the next call publicly, right there at our table. It was Robert Bennett himself. "Mr. Bennett," I said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Congratulations on your son's decision-making skills. Camille, I just got off the phone with Margaret Wu. She's talking about voiding the North Peak contract. What the hell is going on?" "Your son terminated my employment this afternoon, as my wedding present," he said. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. When Robert finally spoke, his voice was strained. "Lucas did what?" "Check your messages, Mr. Bennett. I believe you'll find several clients expressing concerns about project continuity. Camille, listen to me very carefully. Whatever Lucas said, whatever he did, we can fix this. You're not terminated. You're promoted. Name your price." I looked around at my wedding guests, many of whom were listening with fascination to this very public conversation. "I'm afraid it's too late for that, Mr. Bennett. Your son made his position quite clear. Camille, you don't understand. The North Peak contract alone has a key personnel clause requiring my direct involvement, as does the Kristen Global contract, and the Foxton Interactive Agreement, and several others." I paused, letting that sink in. "Perhaps you should have a conversation with Lucas about the strategic implications of his personnel decisions." I hung up before Robert could respond, and the table erupted in murmurs. David squeezed my hand approvingly, while my cousin Janet stared at me in amazement. "Did you just tell a CEO that his son screwed up a $50 million deal?" Janet whispered. "Actually, it's closer to $60 million now. And that's just the beginning." My phone immediately rang again. Robert calling back. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. By the time the dinner course was served, Robert Bennett had called me 12 times and sent 4 increasingly desperate text messages. The latest text read, "Camille, I'm begging you. Lucas acted without my knowledge. Whatever he offered you, I'll double it. Triple it. The board will have my head if we lose these contracts." I showed the message to David, who chuckled softly. "I think Robert Bennett is having a very educational evening." "The night is young," I replied. "Wait until he talks to the other clients." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a call from Sandra Phillips at Riverton Manufacturing. I'd been cultivating that relationship for 8 months, and their potential contract was worth $25 million. I answered the call with a bright smile. "Sandra, how wonderful to hear from you on my wedding day." "Camille, I hope I'm not disturbing you, but I just heard the most troubling news from Margaret Wu." As Sandra Phillips expressed her concerns about the instability at Greylinks Industries, I watched the sun set through the reception venue's large windows. The golden hour light felt symbolic. Lucas's career was ending just as my new life with David was beginning. "Sandra, I understand your concerns," I said into the phone while guests danced around me. "The transition at Greylinks will certainly be challenging for all parties involved." Challenging is an understatement. Our board specifically chose Greylinks because of your involvement. If you're no longer there, we'll need to reconsider our entire procurement strategy. That was the death knell for Lucas's prospects. Sandra's contract wasn't just worth $25 million. It was a gateway to the entire municipal infrastructure market. Losing Riverton Manufacturing would signal to other government contractors that Greylinks Industries was unstable. After ending the call, I found myself approached by my friend Allison, who worked in corporate communications. "Camille, what's happening? Your phone hasn't stopped ringing for 2 hours." "Lucas Bennett made a strategic error," I explained simply. "He terminated my employment today without considering the broader implications." "On your wedding day? That's horrible. It's certainly been educational." I smiled as my phone buzzed again, this time with a call from Kenneth Morrison at Blackstone Outfitters. "Excuse me, I should take this." Kenneth's message was the same as all the others. Concerns about project continuity, questions about Greylinx's stability, and subtle threats to pull his $15 million contract. By now, the pattern was clear. The industry network that had taken me years to build was turning against Greylinx Industries in real time. David appeared at my side with a glass of champagne. How many contracts are we up to now? Total potential losses? Approaching $90 million. I sipped my champagne thoughtfully. And that's just the immediate impact. The reputation damage will cost them much more in future opportunities. Lucas must be having quite an evening. As if summoned by our conversation, my phone rang with an unknown number. I answered to find Lucas himself on the line, his voice tight with panic. Camille, we need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding. Lucas, how thoughtful of you to call on my wedding day. Are you enjoying your evening? Cut the act. I just got off a very unpleasant call with my father. He's upset about some client reactions to your departure. Client reactions? I feigned surprise. Whatever could you mean? You know exactly what I mean. Margaret Wu is threatening to void the North Peak contract. Victoria Stone already sent a cancellation letter for Foxton Interactive. Thomas Rodriguez is demanding a meeting first thing Monday morning. I could hear the desperation creeping into his voice. The arrogant young executive who'd sent those smug text messages a few hours ago was rapidly realizing the magnitude of his miscalculation. That does sound concerning, I said sympathetically. Have you considered that these clients might be questioning Greylinx's commitment to project continuity? Camille, I'm prepared to reverse the termination. Full reinstatement, immediate promotion to Vice President of Business Development, 20% salary increase. That's very generous, Lucas. But I'm afraid I'm rather busy with my wedding reception at the moment. This isn't a game. The board is calling an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. My father is furious. If we lose these contracts, then perhaps you should have considered the consequences before sending me that charming text message about cleaning out my desk. I hung up and turned off my phone entirely. The nuclear chain reaction Lucas had triggered was beyond stopping now. Even if I wanted to save Greylinx Industries, which I decidedly did not, the damage to their reputation was irreversible. Monday morning arrived with the subtlety of a freight train. I sat in my home office, officially unemployed, but feeling more powerful than I ever had at Greylinx Industries. My phone had been buzzing continuously since 7 a.m., but I was in no hurry to answer. David brought me coffee and kissed my forehead. Ready for the fireworks? They've already started. I showed him my voicemail count, 37 messages, most from Robert Bennett and various Greylinx executives. Lucas apparently spent his Sunday in crisis meetings. The first voicemail was from Robert, time-stamped at 6:47 a.m. Camille, I've been up all night. Foxton Interactive has officially terminated their contract. Kristen Global is demanding a full project team restructure. Please, call me back. We need to discuss terms. The second message was even more desperate. Camille, this is Robert again. The board is convening an emergency session. Riverton Manufacturing just sent a formal notice of intent to withdraw. I'm authorized to offer you a partnership stake in the company. I listened to each increasingly frantic message while sipping my coffee. By message 15, Robert was offering me Lucas's job. By message 23, he was offering me his own. The final message, left at 5:30 a.m., was barely coherent. Camille, please. The preliminary damage estimates are catastrophic. The board is talking about removing me as CEO. Lucas is finished. Whatever you want, it's yours. Just please, help us save what's left of the company. I deleted all the voicemails without responding. There was nothing left to save, and even if there was, I had no intention of rescuing the people who'd tried to humiliate me on my wedding day. My personal phone rang. Margaret Wu. Camille, I wanted to give you an update. North Peak has officially withdrawn from all agreements with Greylinx Industries. We're already in talks with Braventine Logistics about taking over our automation needs. I'm sorry to hear about the disruption to your project timeline, Margaret. Actually, we're not sorry at all. Bravantine has offered us better terms and a more experienced project team. Grey Lynx's loss is definitely our gain. By Wednesday, the industry news sites were reporting the story. Grey Lynx Industries faces mass client exodus after key executive departure ran as the headline in Industrial Automation Weekly. The article detailed how a single personnel decision had triggered the loss of over $100 million in active contracts. Lucas Bennett was nowhere to be found. According to my former colleagues who'd been calling to offer congratulations and job opportunities, he'd been placed on administrative leave pending a board investigation. Robert Bennett had resigned as CEO, accepting full responsibility for what the board called a catastrophic failure of management oversight. The interim CEO was already fielding acquisition offers from competitors looking to pick up Grey Lynx's remaining assets at fire sale prices. What had been a thriving company just 4 days ago was now a cautionary tale about the importance of key personnel relationships in relationship-driven industries. Victoria Stone from Foxton Interactive called to offer me a position as Director of Strategic Partnerships. "The way you handled this entire situation was masterful," she said. "You turned a vindictive attack into a demonstration of your true value. That's exactly the kind of strategic thinking we need on our team." Margaret Wu made a similar offer, as did Thomas Rodriguez and Kenneth Morrison. Even Sandra Phillips called on behalf of Riverton Manufacturing. "We're expanding our procurement team and looking for someone with deep industry knowledge and proven relationship-building skills." David found me in my office that afternoon, surrounded by job offers and contract proposals. "It seems like destroying Grey Lynx Industries was good for your career prospects. It's amazing what happens when people see your true value," I replied. "Lucas thought he was ending my career. Instead, he just advertised my skills to every major player in the industry." "So which offer will you accept?" I smiled, looking at the stack of opportunities Lucas had inadvertently created for me. "I'm thinking of starting my own consulting firm. All these companies need someone who understands both technical requirements and client relationship management. Lucas just proved there's a huge market for that expertise." Lucas Bennett's attempt to destroy my wedding day had backfired spectacularly. Within a week, he was unemployed and unemployable, his reputation in the industry permanently tarnished. Robert Bennett's resignation became effective immediately, and he spent the following months dealing with shareholder lawsuits and board investigations. The Grey Lynx Industries stock price plummeted 60% before the company was finally acquired by a competitor for a fraction of its former value. Lucas's inheritance evaporated along with the family business, leaving him to explain to future employers why his tenure as a senior executive had lasted exactly one disastrous weekend. As I signed the incorporation papers for Rhodes Strategic Consulting 6 weeks later, I reflected on how Lucas's cruelty had actually been the greatest gift of my career. His vindictive wedding present had freed me from a company that didn't value my contributions and launched me into entrepreneurship with a ready-made client base and an industry reputation for turning adversity into opportunity. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting your enemies destroy themselves while you build something better from the ashes of their mistakes.